Hi, I'm Shannon from Nina. You are joining us for the step-by-step for the t-shirt tote. If you haven't already done so, make sure you pause this video real quick and visit the Iris free download section of the ninaline.com and download the step-by-step instructions to follow along. If you've done that, we're going to start by taking apart a t-shirt. We're going to cover some hooping of knits, and then we'll move right into the t-shirt tote. So I'm starting with a regular t-shirt. This is a lighter weight t-shirt, so I'm going to be using a couple of different stabilizers, but we're going to start by cutting off the arms. We're going to use our fabric-only scissors. Make sure you're not using your paper scissors. And we're going to cut off the sleeves about a ½ inch outside of the seam, like so. Do the same thing for the other side. You don't have to be exact when you're cutting, but if you cut about a ½ inch outside the seam, you won't hit the seam and have to worry about that later. I found the easiest way to cut away the neckline is to actually turn it so the back is facing you and fold down the neckline like so, and then cut the fold open, like so. There we go. So our neckline and our arms are gone. The next thing we're going to do, since our embroidery, this is going to be the top of our tote, our embroidery is going to be in this area. We're going to cut up one side of the t-shirt bag. And again, you don't have to be exact with this. We're going to make it into the bag dimensions once we're done with the embroidery process. Now that I have my t-shirt open, it's almost like one continuous piece of fabric now. I'm going to start by using a no-show fusible mesh interfacing. This is fusible. You can see the one side of the interfacing is a little bit shiny, and that's the fusible type of adhesive that they've used on this stabilizer. But I'm using it on this t-shirt because it's a little bit thin and has a lot of elasticity in it. I'm going to unroll it and cut a piece about the width of the t-shirt, fuse it down. You don't use a steam on this particular stabilizer, but just fuse it down so that it keeps the t-shirt from stretching while you're embroidering. Once you've done that, we're going to use another one of my absolute favorite stabilizers. This is called Aqua Magic Plus. Aqua Magic stabilizer is a water-soluble stabilizer. The plus feature in this stabilizer is that it has a sticky back to it. So I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to show you a little tip on hooping knits. Knits can be kind of tricky, one, because they're stretchy, but second, if you hoop knits in the regular way, like we did on the leaf table runner or some of the other projects that you've seen on ninaline.com, you'll see that we hoop the stabilizer, hoop the fabric, put it right into our embroidery machine. If you do that with a knit, you'll get what's called hoop burn, and that's where you actually see the stretching and the burning on the knit where the hoops meet. And the friction caused from embroidery will rub it together, stretch it out, and actually cause it to burn the fabric a little. So to avoid that, we're going to use the Aqua Magic Plus, take away the paper backing, sticky side up, and I have my inner hoop in my outer hoop for this particular embroidery machine, and I'm going to stick those right on top of the sticky stabilizer. Push it down, and my stabilizer is all ready to go. What this will do is, because it's sticky, it will keep, again, add that extra stability that we need for our knit, and completely avoid the hoop burn. And there you go. Your knits are hooped. The next step, though, when you're hooping knits or when you're embroidering on knits or any fabric that's going to move a lot, is you're going to want to use a feature on your machine called basting in the hoop. Sometimes it's called fixing in the hoop. And you can see it very clearly on this t-shirt that I've already embroidered. I used the Make It You Your Space designs from MIY2, which is put out by Cactus Punch. And the basting in the hoop is this large basting stitch all the way around the outside of the design. And that's just going to keep all of those layers, the fusible no-show mesh, the Aqua Magic, and the knit, all together in one layer and make it really nice to embroider on. When you've done your embroidery, you can see I have the fusible no-show mesh, which has kind of started to pull away from the t-shirt. That's perfectly normal. It's exactly what you want it to do. You're going to finish gently pulling it away, and you're going to cut the extra stabilizer away, as well as take out your basting stitch. And I found that if you use a pair of scissors and clip at the very corner of that stitch, you can take a few pieces out. But if you pull from the bobbin end, you can get a lot of stitches out as opposed to picking every individual stitch out. So go ahead and take your extra stabilizer and your basting stitches out. And then you're ready to cut your t-shirt into the pieces that you're going to need for your little tote bag. You're also going to need 2 yards of some really nice roping or cording. You can use gross grain ribbon or rickrack, or if you have a nice pair of purse handles that you want to use, you could do that as well. I've put tape on the ends to keep them from unraveling until I'm done with my project, and then as you can see in the finished sample, they kind of look like little pom-poms there. So we're going to have 2 yards of that. Then you're going to cut your t-shirt into 16 by 21. If you're using a smaller t-shirt, make sure that you get as much of the fabric as possible. So those dimensions aren't cement. Just make sure you're using as much of the t-shirt as possible. This one was 16 by 21. I cut a lining the same exact size. Then put them right sides together and stitch along the longest edge. This is going to be the top edge of your purse. Also, because we're working with knits, make sure you're using a stretch needle that corresponds with the size knit that you're using. So for this one, I used an 80-12 stretch needle. Once you've sewn those 2 pieces together, your lining and your purse, you're going to take both of those pieces. So you have your purse, 2 pieces of t-shirt for your purse, and your 2 pieces of cotton for your lining. You're going to pin them right sides together, matching the seams and the corners and the raw edges. When you pin them together, 3 inches on either side of the seam, you're going to place a mark, either with a water-soluble marking pen or a chalk, or a pin in this case, as I have here. And you're going to leave this area open for turning right side out, as well as the side piece, which I'll show you in just a minute. The next step is to start at your 3-inch mark. So you're going to start on your lining edge, sew all the way around, making sure to pivot at your corners, and stop. Then pick up on the t-shirt side of your bag, which is the outer part, sew 3 inches from the seam all the way around, unpin, turn it right side out. As you can see from the finished sample here, you're going to turn those unfinished edges, these are your 3-inch sides here, you're going to turn those into the right side of the purse, or the wrong side of the purse, I'm sorry, top stitch, and then about 3/4 of an inch from the top seam, you're going to make a casing, stitching all the way across the top of the purse. Use your cording. You have a cute t-shirt tote to go. Come back and visit me again at the9align.com.